You don't need I'm doing this my way. He a legend, he a legend, he a legend. He a legend, he a legend, he a legend. He a legend. Welcome to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league of items. Welcome to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league of items.
What's up, everybody? It's Pikel with League of Items, and we had only 2 matches last night in Korea. We have 1 match in the LCS today, 5 matches in the LEC. So before we talk about the LEC and who I think the best team in the LEC is, I just want to do a quick recap of yesterday. Recap of yesterday. So Dignitas took 1 game off of Team Liquid and was competitive throughout the series. River looks to be a really good addition to the team, which is not so surprising. There just aren't that many good junglers in the LCS in terms of like talent level relative to the rest of the world. So, River is going to be pretty impactful, I think, throughout the year. He's like my 4th or 5th most talented jungler in the LCS. Today we have EG. EG should beat up on C9. I think that C9 definitely has chances to take 1 or 2 games off of them, but I think Evil Genius's talent level throughout the year is going to be shown to be much stronger. We had a big upset. We had 2 upsets in the LCK last night. One of them was a big upset. KT beat Genji, which was very surprising. And then DRX beat Nongshim, and that one's a lot less surprising to me specifically. I had DRX as the winners of that match because I believe in their talent, and I figured they had chances to win that match. So let's go to the scoreboards. Let's turn that off for now. So there are 2 matches tomorrow as well, so we'll just do these scoreboards and then we'll go to tomorrow's games. So KT Rolster against Genji, Rascal against Doran. Their talent levels are pretty similar. I think that Peanut is a better player than Cuz. But again, we've talked about this potential trap of the Poppy pick. I think that the better teams are the ones who are picking Poppy, but it leaves you somewhat vulnerable if the game is relatively close and you don't have really easy ways to convert your lead from the middle to late game. Poppy's only going to be able to do so much. We saw a really good Poppy game from River yesterday where he was very aggressive, taking aggressive angles and like flashing over walls to stun people into the wall. But that wasn't even enough in that game, I think, to get a win because of the limitations of that champion. And if somebody like Peanut is your most important player in the early and mid game, which he probably is, I think that taking away some of that playmaking ability is a mistake. In the second game, kind of a similar thing. We had a Sejuani game. I don't even know if Sejuani is a champion that most people are playing. I get why you would play something like the Sejuani. But again, I think you just need more out of Peanut's champions in terms of like damage and being a carry threat. So definitely not something that I would do if I was Genji's coach. Chovy went Victor Oriana. We had Oriana LeBlanc. Arya's a good player, and we talked about this before the season got started. I was hopeful that Arya would have a good season. And we had our other favorite mid laner, Zika, playing yesterday. But then let's go to the bot lane. Aiming and Life against Ruler and Lehens. Ruler and Lehens are definitely the better players. But Aiming is a legit AD carry. We knew that last year when they were on BLG. Life isn't really a good DraftKings support, but he's a pretty good real life support. I would have to watch these games. I was sleeping during these games. The first one looks like kind of more of a blowout than the second one. But, good for KT Rolster. It's not going to change my rating of Genji. I still think that Genji is probably the best team in the LCK and the team that I would bet on to win the spring split in the playoffs. Let's go to the second match. So we had DRX against Nongshim. So Akshan against Graves. Kingen putting in a good performance against Kana is good in that game, but I think that's more matchup based. You might hear snowblowers and stuff. It snowed yesterday. I think that Kingen is supposed to win this matchup against Graves. Piosik on Jarvan in back-to-back games, so Xin Zhao versus Jarvan in both games is fine. We had the Corki for Zika in both games, so they kind of just ran back the team compositions. We had Deft on Jinx in both games. And somebody mentioned yesterday that Deft's record on Jinx is like 44-4 or something like that, which is wild. That's a very good thing for this meta, obviously. And then one of the other things we talked about recently was Corki. If you're going to play against a Corki and you're going to give away the champion, you should be picking tankier champions. Like today we saw Rogue play Ornn, Volibear, and that gives enough of a meat shield where they're going to eat a lot of the ultimates. It wasn't against a Corki, but I would think that those kinds of champions are going to do better in the late game into Corki, where he's shooting out missiles. You try to block as many as you can for the rest of your team, so they can pump out damage. But the better thing to do if you're the blue team is probably just pick Corki or force that ban out of the red team. So yeah, like I said in the video yesterday, Khan is better than Kingen. I think that Piosik is better than Dread straight up. I think that BDD has definitely had the better career, but I think Zika has the chance to be someone on that level. Like I know BDD has been a very good mid laner for a long time now. I think that Zika's potential is at similar heights. We actually saw the utility AD carries coming out for Ghost. So Ghost played Caitlyn and Jhin. Kate is less of a utility AD carry, but she's more of an early mid game carry, and is going to stall out in the late game unless she has a big advantage. And then we love watching Jhin lose, so that's good. Tomorrow's games, we have T1 against Damwon. T1 is the favorite, which is somewhat surprising to me. They're minus 143, Damwon Gaming plus 110. I think that's an obvious Damwon Gaming spot. I know that T1 has looked better so far, but their schedule has been easier, and I still think that Damwon is the better team overall. So in the top lane, we're hopefully going to see Birdall against Zeus. I think that Zeus has looked more consistent because his team has been winning, but I think Birdall has a much higher ceiling out of those two players. In the jungle, we have Canyon and Owner. Canyon's the better player, period. Showmaker against Faker. Showmaker is the better player, period. And then in the bot lane, Gumayusi and Keria against... why did I forget this? Against Deokdam and Kellen. So that might actually be T1 favored. In this type of meta where you're going to have two late game carries getting traded back and forth, I don't think that it's going to be a big deal that T1 has that advantage in the bot lane. And I'm more of a T1 fan than I am a Damwon fan. But I think that it's Damwon as an underdog. You kind of have to play them there. Then in the second match, we have Hanwha Life against Sandbox. So Hanwha Life, who have they been playing in the top lane? Doodoo on Fleek. They haven't even been playing Willer? What? They should sell Willer then. I think Willer's better than On Fleek. So Doodoo against Dove. Dove, I think, has had better solo carry performances. Kroko against On Fleek. I don't really care. Closer against Karis. I'm willing to go on the closer side for that. Just overall, I think they're a better player. And then Ice and Kale against Samd and Vista. I think I'm just going to play Live Sandbox here. So maybe another double dog kind of day. I try to not play these slates on DraftKings. They're just not interesting to me. Which is one of the nice things about, you win a couple $1,000 earlier in the season. You can kind of take slates off. You don't really have to do anything. which I'm going to continue to do more often, kind of fade some of these slates. And then in the LEC, we can go through the games that have been played so far. So we had BDS against SK. I was on BDS as an underdog. We won that one. XL against Astralis. We won that one. Then we had Mad Lions losing to Misfits, which sucks for me because I love it when they lose. I love when Mad Lions loses, but I didn't get the benefit of also playing Misfits. And there were a few people in Discord who kind of felt the same way. Vitality against Rogue. I had to be on Vitality here, but Rogue ended up winning. Rogue's a good team. We'll discuss that further later on in this video. And then we have the last game going on right now, so let's check in on that.
This is Lumen.
Lumen getting double advertisement. Good job, Lumen. Let's get rid of that. So Fnatic is up 3-1. G2 making a comeback potentially. Huh? Maybe. So we're not going to have that result for this video. But this video will probably not be as long as the last one that I did on the LPL in this style. So going back to the camera, this is what the standings look like right now before the Fnatic game finishes. So we have Astralis in last place. They're 0-7. That's tough. SK Gaming 1-6. Their one victory coming over Mad Lions in that really long drawn out game that they threw and then kind of won. Vitality at 3-4. Obviously very disappointing so far. Their next matches against Astralis and Misfits will hopefully see them going 5-4 into the second half of the split. BDS beating Astralis and XL. You don't get any credit for those. Losing to Fnatic, Misfits, Rogue is kind of expected. Losing to Vitality is kind of expected. It looks like they'll probably have 2 more losses going into the second half of the split. XL, no. So they're one of the teams that took advantage of Vitality in the first week. So that is a good thing. I think that they are a little bit better than the rest of the lower tier teams, but I'm not too excited by them. Then we have Misfits at 4-3. So Misfits lost to Fnatic, G2, and Rogue. They'll probably lose to Vitality. And they have that win over Mad Lions. Okay, that's fine. Mad Lions haven't played Fnatic yet, so that'll be interesting to watch. Losing to Misfits, losing to Rogue, losing to SK, beating Vitality. G2 Esports lost to Mad Lions, lost to Vitality. Haven't played Fnatic or Rogue yet, so they'll probably lose both of those games. Fnatic has only one loss to Rogue, still has to play G2. Well, they're playing G2 right now, and then they have to play Mad Lions, so they'll probably go 1-1 or 2-0, depending on how that game plays out that they're in right now. And then Rogue is 7-0. They haven't played G2 or XL, so it's very possible that they're going into the second half of the split 9-0. I was not as high on Rogue at the beginning of the season as I probably should have been, but there were a lot of question marks around the players, and I thought that Fnatic and Vitality were just better from a talent perspective, so we'll have to kind of talk through that again today. I don't think I'm really changing my tier list. So this is what my tier list was on the 23rd, so like a week ago. This is what it was probably before the season even started. And then I think I was like planning on updating it last week, but I don't think really much has changed. But we can kind of talk through it. So Astralis, if like the reason I wanted to put the standings on the screen is because if you're just getting your tier list from the standings, then you will never find an edge on the sportsbook. If your opinion is only based on the results that we've seen so far, doesn't take talent into consideration, doesn't take matchups into consideration, then you're wasting your time and money. So basically, we can start with Astralis. I think Astralis' big problem right now is Enzara. He's just not a good jungler. his champion pool is very one-dimensional. He can play some of the other champions. Like today, he tried to play Xin Zhao, but he fell flat on his face. White Knight, I think, is actually a pretty decent top laner. I don't have any issues with him. Dajor has looked okay, but Kabe and Promise Q, I think Kabe is definitely past his prime. Promise Q arguably never had a prime, and probably shouldn't be playing in the LEC. I think that Advienne would be a good option for them just to get a younger player in there because they have no shot of doing anything this year, most likely. With BDS, I think BDS can probably move up a little bit. I would rather have BDS than SK Gaming. So let's do SK Gaming next. So Gen X, okay player. Gilius, okay player. Certus, Jesu, Treats. They're all okay players, but none of them are much better than league average. They're all league average players, and in the LEC, you're just not really going to be able to carve out big advantages with that. It seems like they want to play more of a slow style in general, but that's not a good play style to have if the other team is just better than you. You need to be more aggressive, take those chances in the early game, and play a more highly variant game style, which is one of the reasons I think BDS will be better than them long term, because I think they have a better understanding that they're not that good, and they kind of play that way. So Adam's good. Syncroft has had good performances. Nuclear Instant okay player. Xmatty and Limit. I think that it's similar in the sense that they don't have any very good players, but I think Adam has a chance to be a better player relative to everyone else on his team to their position in the league. So that is a positive, but I don't really see them being much better than the D tier. Then we have XL. So XL is a team that a lot of people were big on before the split started, and they were like, oh yeah, maybe they can do something this year. But you have some of the same problems that they've had historically because the limitations of their playstyle. And it's another example where you have an 80 carry in the Upset, Patrick, Kabe. They all play a somewhat similar style. You can throw Comp into that mix as well. Crown Shot, players like that. They will do their job as an AD carry, but a lot of the time they're not going to be the ones creating that advantage. It's going to require supports making good plays, junglers making good plays, their team having gold advantages going into the mid and late game, the 20 to 25 minute mark where you're fighting around important dragons, important barons, and you really want that upper echelon mechanical ability. And I just don't think that they have it. Yes, you will have them get screamed about by the casters, but that's because that's the caster's job, is to try to hype up the situation. But if you put any of these players in a losing position, how often are they going to turn around a team fight and win? It's just not something that I feel very confident with them. Next up we have Misfits and G2. Misfits and G2. I do think they belong underneath the rest of these teams still. We have a limited sample size in terms of the game so far, so let's just talk about Misfits first. So with Misfits, Hyrich, Zlatan, Vetio, Neon, Mursa, I don't really see any of those players being an upper echelon player in their role this year. I know that people want Vetio to be good, or at least better than he is, but when you have Perks, Caps, Humanoid, Larson, is he the 5th best? Is he the 6th best? What's his ceiling like? I don't know if I can really put him up above any of those other mid laners. If you get into a spot in the playoffs where it's Corki Victor trading, then yeah, maybe he is able to play counter picks or exploit a lazy draft from one of these better teams. But I'm not ever going to go into a match, at least not yet, with my current opinion of Vetio. I would not be able to go into a match and say, yeah, I think Vetio is going to be the winning difference in this matchup. G2, Broken Blade, Yonkos, Caps, Flocked, Targamas. I think that they actually probably belong in the tier above Misfits. They're closer to Mad Lions and Rogue than they are to Misfits. I think Broken Blade has been a consistently good performer throughout his professional career when he's on a team that isn't complete garbage. Jankos is okay, but I think that his mechanical ability isn't as good as a lot of the junglers that came out during the carry jungle meta. And that's not trying to take anything away from Jankos, because he's very good at the other style of League of Legends, but now you kind of need to be able to do both, and I think he's better at the one style of jungling. He can have carry performances, and there was a time during the 2020 split where he was getting a lot of kills and stuff like that, but the champions themselves weren't very difficult. It would be like he pulled out that one Pantheon jungle game that he just went absolutely insane, but like was never an excellent Graves jungler when that was first becoming the most important champion in the jungle. But he eventually learned it and was okay at it. Caps is still very good. Flocket and Targamas. I think that I like the idea of their bot lane. I don't think Flocket has been very good so far. Targamas has an interesting champion pool and is willing to play different champions, so that's always fun to watch. Mad Lions is a team that I just don't like because of all the hype they have around them. People give them too much credit, in my opinion. There will be a time when public perception starts to doubt Mad Lions that I'll be on them again, but for now I think that it's a team that I will never be able to view favorably and feel like I'm getting an advantage over the field or over the sportsbook. So with Mad Lions at 4-3, this is probably one of the best case scenarios for me, because I get the enjoyment of watching Mad Lions lose games, and then maybe the sports books make them smaller favorites going into some of these matches in the second half of the split, because there's more doubt. Next up we have Rogue, and I think obviously Rogue has to move up into the S tier, so we'll wait to talk about them. Then we have Fnatic. It's basically Fnatic, Rogue, and Vitality are the three best teams, in my mind, at least. Mad Lions has chances to get up into the third spot, but I don't really ever see them getting into the first or second spot for me. They just won't ever be that in my rankings. So let's talk about Fnatic. Fnatic has had pretty good performances so far this year. They've kind of done everything you asked of them except for beat Rogue, and in that Rogue game they were pretty impressive. So I don't know what to do about this. I still believe in Vitality. I think that there's two ways you can kind of determine your top three. One is by the results that you've seen, and the other is by talent. So if I'm going purely by results, obviously I would have Fnatic and Rogue above Vitality, but I think that talent is more important long term. So let's talk about the talent of these three teams, starting with Fnatic. So Wunder is a better than league average player, but again, he has limitations with champion pools and how he impacts the game. Razork, good player, not a great player, above league average, that's fine. Humanoid, probably the most overrated player in the world, and I do mean that when I say that. Then we have Upset and Hillsong. They're a good bot lane. Upset is probably overrated because I think he's somewhat one-dimensional, but Hillsong is a very good support. So they are definitely above average in every role. They're going to beat up on all the bottom of the table teams. They're a more consistent play style, so it's less likely that they drop a game to one of the lower teams, whereas Vitality in general is more volatile, is willing to take more risks in the early and mid game, which will make them look even stronger at certain points and much weaker at different points. But I think if you're comparing Alfari to Wunder, I think you have to go with Alfari. Self-made against Razork, I think you have to go self-made. Perks against Humanoid, it's definitely Perks for me. And then Karzi and Labrov against Upset and Hillsong. That's the part that's close. I think that I don't hate the consistency of Upset, and I do like the playmaking upside of Hillsong, but I prefer Karzi's playstyle to Upset. I probably prefer Hillsong's playstyle to Labrov. So I just have a higher opinion of the talent on Vitality. I kind of have to throw them up there. But then when we get to Rogue, like, this is where I'll I'll probably always have Rogue above Fnatic because they have a lot of similarities between the two teams. I just think that Rogue does it better. So Odoamne against Wonder, I think that they have very similar champion pools. They've both been around forever. They both will be able to play whatever matchup you draft into them. They'll be able to do it the right way. Sometimes it'll go wrong, but I believe in their ability to convert that most of the time and kind of play to the win conditions of the team. Malrong against Razork. Malrong is obviously a better player than Razork. I don't even need to talk about that. Larson against Humanoid, same thing. If you watch Larson and Humanoid play against each other and you've been watching League of Legends for multiple years, I really don't see how you can make the argument that Humanoid is better when he has consistently had junglers whose job it's been to make him look good, and his limited champion pool, the types of plays that he makes are not impressive. I can't really recall many impressive plays from Humanoid, and if you disagree with me on that, feel free to show me some examples of when he's been really good mechanically instead of positionally. It's he's on TF and he rotated bot lane and he used his ultimate and he got a kill. What an amazing player. I just don't really see it. I think that he's just a better version of Niski, and that is not a compliment. And then Comp and Trimby against Upset and Hylissang. This is where if Comp is basically an Upset clone, then the best case scenario is Comp being as good as Upset. Then with Trimby and Hylissang, Trimby is a playmaker, but at the same time, his upside is the Hylissang level as well. So the fact that I prefer the top side of the map of Rogue, and then the bot side is even at best and not as good as Fnatic at worst. I kind of will just prefer the top side in general. I think I said that to somebody yesterday in the LPL video because we were talking about EDG against LNG. But yeah, that's that. And then if we did the same thing with Rogue against Vitality, Alfari against Odoamne, I prefer Alfari. Malrong against Selfmade, I probably prefer Malrong. I think that Selfmade will be the better carry player, but Malrong is more of the he's willing to opt into the Volibear, Jarvan, Poppy champions that are more about supporting the rest of their team. They will look good because they will have good kill scores. They're creating a lot of action around the map, but it's not really their job to carry the games, which is fine. It doesn't mean that they're bad. It just means that it's not their job to be the hard carry. Do I think that he could hard carry as well? Yes, of course. But if his role within the team is to play that more supportive style, it's gonna be more surprising when he pulls out the explosive champions, which is probably just a benefit. Larson, that's basically my way of saying that I think that he can play a lot of the champions that Selfmade plays, and that we give Selfmade a lot of credit for. Larson against Perks, I prefer Perks. I think that Perks is, one of the 2 or 3 best Western players of all time, probably the best Western player of all time. Then we have Karzi and Labrov against Comp and Trimby. Comp and Labrov used to be bot lane duo. Tough to say. Obviously, Karzi has had a better career than Comp so far, but the play style differences between Karzi and Comp will allow there to be counterplay no matter what the draft does. And then with Trimby and Labrov, Trimby's a better player than Labrov right now, but Labrov doesn't seem horrible. That's basically it. I know that a lot of people probably want Fnatic to be up above Vitality, but like I said, for me, talent is the most important thing, and I just think that Vitality's talent is better than Fnatic. But that's all I have for you today. So thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.